there's actually two things here. It's driving traffic and converting sales, and they're actually quite different from me. What drives traffic to my business is really blogging. And I know everybody is telling you, everybody's blogging out there, and you always see the statistics of how many blogs are started. But that's actually what's done it for us. I've only been blogging for 2.5 years. So Cross-Border Communications is actually my PR agency. I work with technology clients. And PR in Your Pajamas is my blog. And I started it because I wanted to help smaller businesses, actually specifically for mom entrepreneurs. And I was kind of envisioning somebody that couldn't afford a publicist, but still wanted to get the word out there about their business, because I figured if nobody's talking about you, then nobody's buying from you. And so for me and my team, it's really about blogging and establishing our expertise in PR, and also search engine optimized press release, so SEO press releases, and I can dig into that a little bit later, and probably Jonathan as well. And in terms of converting sales, I still believe that it's not very sexy, but it's email. To me, it's email marketing. And so, our main goal, whether it's blogging or SEO press releases, is to get them on our website and to get them to sign up for our newsletter, or to sign up on my cross-border site. I give away a free ebook. It's like 30 days, I can't remember what it's called now, 30 days of PR and social media or something like that. And really, all I did is I leveraged my blog posts, and I think right now I must have like 200 posts or something over the last 2.5 years that I've been blogging. And I just took, 30 posts that I thought somebody would find valuable. I put it in a kind of a logical order, and it's a giveaway. So people want to sign up for that because they don't want to hunt through 200 posts on how to do something, right? So again, so that's for me traffic, and then converting is it's email. You've got to get somebody's email and ask their permission to continue marketing to them.
Elena, how often do you post?
I'm not one of those diligent bloggers. So when I started, I think the first year I was all over the place, and then I really saw results when I said to myself, maybe about 1.5 years ago, okay, I'm going to blog once a week. That's all, once a week. And once in a while I'll do 2 posts because I happen to want to share something, or if I'm promoting something. And I've just recently, probably in the last 6 months, kind of had this aha moment, like, oh my God, I don't have to do it all myself. I can get guest posts. So, right? It's like, and so it's really interesting. But I do think if you're starting your blog, try and get your blog's voice first, right? So, it took me a while. I mean, probably at least 6 months to really figure out, okay, what do I want to say? What's my tone going to be like? Like, tone is very important, because I just landed a client, and she says, I just like your tone. I knew I was talking to a person. So you kind of attract ideal clients that way with how you blog, and you're not gonna please everybody. People are gonna come on your blog and say nasty things, and you're kind of like, start your own blog if that's what you want to say. But yeah. So anyway.
We're hot in the middle of it right now because we just launched our e-commerce startup in the last few months, and our market is very much targeted at states. And so we're trying to cut through a lot of noise and introduce ourselves as a new, fun online retail site for women to go and buy basically nuisance products and commodity products. So to add on to what Elena was saying, blogging is very important to us. We do generate a lot of our own content, but what we've been doing, what I'll talk to, is creating blogger relationships. And we create blogger relationships for 2 reasons. One, for editorial. We've had some really great hits recently from various bloggers, either in technology, which is great from us because it raises our profile with investors, or with lifestyle because it raises our profile with the demographic that we're going after, let's say college girls, for instance. So the editorial blogs are fantastic, and that's a relationship building. And then the other thing we've been doing is seeking out bloggers who blog for business and therefore are willing to do sponsored posts, which you pay for, or run contests which will add value to their readership. And so we've sought out bloggers that we think are accessing a group of women that we're interested in talking to, and we'll work with them. And sometimes it's just editorial, sometimes it's basically advertorial, which is a sponsored post, and sometimes it's a contest. So that's been really useful for us. It's driven a lot of traffic to our website, especially in the last 6 weeks. So that's helped to drive traffic to the site. The other thing that's really important to us, and again, Elena just mentioned this, is converting sales. To us, it's not sexy and it's a lot of work, especially when you're a small company, but it is definitely email campaigns. Email campaigns for us is where we have a chance to actually promote the product, where we can talk about an item, where we can offer a promotion code. And so to do an email campaign, obviously you want to capture as many email addresses as possible. So how do you do that when you don't, when you're not, let's say, using a listserv, or you don't have a big email database? We've been using Facebook really effectively. And the way that we're generating our Facebook community is through Facebook ads. And for those of you in my breakout group, I'll tell you what we've done. We've quadrupled our Facebook users in the last 4 or 5 weeks. And I'll share with you what we've been doing. It's been really targeted. We've been playing with it ourselves, so you don't necessarily need to hire someone, although I'm not saying you shouldn't, because myself and my business partner have a marketing background, so we had some basics and we've learned a lot along the way. But Facebook ads have been really useful to drive people to our Facebook page. Fresh content is important because it keeps them there, and then we run third-party contests about every 8 weeks where we capture email addresses and dump them into our database, and then we can start the email process, which is basically our sales process. So I would say blogger relationships, for the Facebook community with content, third-party contests to capture emails. That's what's been starting to work for us.
Wow.
I would say more than anything else that keeping on top of the current trends in internet marketing are huge for Cymax and for me as a consultant. So this involves reading, the blogs that Google has, following different thought leaders on Twitter, that type of thing. I wouldn't say that there's one specific secret sauce that we have. I think that internet marketing as a whole changes constantly. We do quite well with a combination of things like SEO, so constantly improving the content and the general offering and user experience of our website. Pay-per-click advertising on specifically Google, so Google AdWords, including new things, new products that they're offering, like Google retargeting ads. We've seen quite a bit of success with that. And then I don't know why you guys are knocking email marketing so much. I think it's really cool. But we do loads of email marketing, everything from reach back campaigns, which I'll talk about a little bit later, to just typical, sales and promotion that way. We also mix in quite a bit of social media. It all kind of ties in together. But I think that in terms of developing, the secret sauce that really will work for your company, it's information. Like there's that, famous saying, information is power. A lot of the people that I work with that are, have 10 years of experience, what we all have in common is that we'll read 2-3 hours out of our day, literally researching what other people have done, looking at other people's ideas. It's not only limited to the internet marketing space. We'll look at, branding and usability and whatever it is that applies to whatever campaign it is that we're working on. But that basically ties it all in together. And so I guess my message here is that there isn't really a secret sauce. It's ever evolving sauce. You're constantly tasting it and adding new ingredients, kind of thing. And that's how we make it work.
Well, I love email marketing, so that's I think email marketing is still very much alive. And I think one of the things to remember is when you actually get the emails, what do you do with them? And if you don't have the emails, how do you get those emails? One of the things that's worked for me this year, and really kind of the end of last year as well, is product launch sequences or product launch formulas. And the idea there is if you have a product or service idea, being able to sequence that and release it to your market using technologies and kind of techniques that are available today that weren't available before. So for example, there's a concept called the flycatcher. And really what that is being able to write, basically film a short video and introduce that video to your email list and get a real idea from your list what they want from you, versus always thinking, is this idea or product what my audience or my target audience wants? Being able to get that feedback in a way that is structured and systematic to where when you release that product or service to the market, you can create a lot of buzz and really great results in sales and really just have a really nice release to the market versus just kind of, here, we think this is what our target audience wants, or we think this is what our prospect wants. but really being able to do it in a systematic way. So for me, product launch sequences have been incredibly successful for membership programs or just a product in itself or its service.
So my website is about, we're in our 6th year now. I think it's also relevant depending on, you know, whether you're starting or 5 years in or 10 years in, your secret sauce will differ. So, you know, it's either about getting the customers to repeat buy and then to repeat buy more often. And then of course to find new customers. So my secret sauce in terms of finding new customers is trying to find a popular brand to add to my website, to add to our portfolio, let's put it that way. So we go into Google AdWords and we look up search and we just find out, you know, how popular is this brand in terms of people searching online. So if it is popular, then we deem it to be a go. The other part, of course, is making sure that I like the supplier and that, you know, we'll get terms and they have a marketing campaign as well. I mean, doing anything online too, it's all about offering a free thing. And I was just reading Predictably Irrational by Dan O'Reilly, and he's all about the free gift. You know, everybody wants something free. So that's why most e-commerce websites offer free shipping. You know, it's a big thing. And also, most of us have a limit, right? So mine is $60 or more, you get free shipping. So trying to get them to buy as much as we can. My average order is higher than that, and we did start at $100 and we brought the bar down because everybody is bringing the bar down. But we try and offer them something free. So our gift with purchase program is really big. I sell cosmetics, just so we're clear. So, you know, gift with purchase is a big thing. Go into a department store, you know, what gift am I gonna get? It's huge. So I then turn around to my suppliers, you know, what is it that I'm able to offer free? Because free works. You know, people want to see value with whatever they buy, whether it's online or in store.
So this quote is from Gary Vaynerchuk. Does everybody know who Gary Vaynerchuk is? Right. So he said, "Content is king, but marketing is queen," and she rules the house or something like that. And you know, I've already talked about blogging, and I'm still surprised at what it's done for our company. But you know, really, the question is, okay, once you blog, what do you do with it, right? How do you get people's eyeballs to your blog? And I've you know, 2 years ago at kind of the same time, I stumbled onto Twitter, you know, and I think for somebody in PR, I was actually probably very late to it. So I only got onto Twitter, you know, 2 years ago, kind of fumbling my way around. I still fumble my way around, by the way, for those of you.
Who's on Twitter?
Yeah, who doesn't
Everybody's on
quite
Twitter.
know what to do on Twitter?
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like that too. So to me, it's like you've just got to relax on Twitter. But I found that blogging, you know, I automatically push it out to my social networks. And I think Twitter for me, when I kind of figured out, oh, I can just be myself. You don't have to be a robot on there. You can talk about, like, some people get really uptight. And honestly, what I've found is that the relationships that I've built on Twitter, it's about me being me, you know? And gotten contracts off of Twitter, right? Like one tweet and suddenly I've gotten a contract. And I find that with Twitter, I'm very strategic about it. So I am on Twitter to meet journalists because I'm in PR. So you know, every journalist is now on Twitter. And the ones that won't answer my email for some reason talk to me on Twitter. So everybody should be doing that, right? I've placed clients from Twitter. So, you know, Jillian Shaw, I think there's somebody here from the Vancouver Sun, but Jillian Shaw, you know, tweeted once.
Is Julie here? I'm actually here.
Oh, there
you are.
Jillian, She's probably tweeting.
So, you know, you tweeted like your colleague was looking to do an ADHD story. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I remember.
Right?
Yes.
Hello.
You must have
And I happen, you know, to know someone and put them together. And it's like, you know, they want to help, right? So, and if it's easy for them to say, hey, I'm looking for something, and people respond, and it's an article. So people also, it's so funny, people always say, well, I don't think you're using Twitter correctly. And I'm like, well, you know, I don't actually have all my personal conversations on Twitter. Twitter is about, you share valuable information, you converse with people, but honestly, most of the most interesting conversations happen off. I think Twitter is about, connecting with influencers, connecting with, I don't know, A-listers, whatever it might be, building a relationship, and then you take it off. Like, we go on Skype after that, we go on email, we meet for coffee. So, but, it's funny that I'm in PR, how they say, like, plumbers have the worst plumbing, marketers have the worst marketing. I never do PR for myself, we're too busy doing it for clients. All I've done is blog and get on Twitter, and for some reason, all these articles seem to come out about me, or I get requests for interviews, or, once in a while somebody says, oh my God, you're in Forbes, and I'm like, how did I get there? And it's just being out there, sharing what you know with people, being helpful, right? And
it's working.
And it's working.
Awesome. Does anybody from the panel have anything to add to that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, do you want to go first? Or?
Go ahead.
Okay. So at Cymax, so I do consulting and I also work at Cymax, which is a big e-commerce company. My role there is purely SEO, more or less. And recently, Google has shifted its algorithmic focus in terms of how it ranks and returns web pages and search results to content as opposed to links. So there's always, the on-site signals that have to do with the way your website is constructed itself, and then there's off-site signals like, mentions in social media, how people link to you, how frequently they link to you, how your competitors are doing, and that type of thing. So Google had an update recently called the Panda update. You might have heard of it. In the SEO world, it's really big news, super geeky. It affected about 35% of sites, and it had to do with the uniqueness and overall quality of your content. So for e-commerce companies, that's tough because a lot of what we deal with is, we'll have all these products. They're not always our products. We don't manufacture them. We kind of sell other people's stuff. So they'll give us, the description of their particular product or whatever it may be, and it's duplicated, which means that we have a lot of like quote unquote low quality content on our site, even though the user experience of the site itself might be really great. So we were battling this issue and trying to figure out, what to do, and we realized that there's a lot of tools out there that can actually help you figure out, what content you should be creating on your website. And one of them, like you were mentioning, is the Google AdWords keyword tool. Which you can basically use for keyword research. You can see what the most popular variations of the terms people are actually using to search for things online are, and you might find that in your content strategy there's actually a gap here and there, or a hole. There's all these keywords people are typing in to search for, and you don't actually have any content that addresses that. So you can essentially grow out entirely new areas of content. For us, we're a furniture retailer, and other home goods. We realize that there's lots of people talking about things like, the safety of cribs and recalls of different types of furniture, and we really didn't have anything on our sites to address that prior to Google shifting its focus and us doing this. So my take on this question is, figure out what people are asking online. Every search is a query, right? Every search is really a question that someone's asking. It's just that instead of, offline someone saying, how big is this pair of yoga pants, or what is the price of a pair of yoga pants, they're actually just typing into Google yoga pants cost or yoga pants size. You've got to kind of figure out what it is that they're really asking, whether it be through keyword research or a focus group or just interviewing your customers and actually talking to them. And then, the content on your site should reflect that. And what we've seen is that Google will reward you for really high quality content that does address the questions that people are actually asking search engines online.
Yeah, I know some of the early mistakes that we made was we assumed people were searching for certain words, but what your customers are actually searching are completely different. The words are completely different than what you think they're searching for. So it's really important to think like your customer and use the right tools to do the searches. So Gordon, did you have something to add to that one?
I do. SEO seems to be shifting and changing, as Jonathan just mentioned with the Panda update. I'm curious as to how many people in the room have Google Plus pages. Because that, as of last week, seems to be one of the big shifts that's about to happen, because they've announced Google Plus business pages. And that's going to affect your SEO ranking significantly, knowing that Google, it's their search engine, they want to compete with Facebook. Google Plus business pages will affect how you rank in search, and knowing that they're also, they own YouTube, so you combine YouTube, Google, and Google Plus, it's no longer, is Google Plus really going to be something that everyone was saying, 2 months ago? Now, business pages are real. It happened literally last week, and it's something to consider. It's easy to set up a page, but you need to pay attention, because it's moving so quick, and if you're just focusing on one piece of SEO, you could miss out.
Thank you for that. I think we're all leaving here tonight. We're all going to set up.
Make
our
your Google Plus pages. Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Katrina, we're going to move on to our next question. The modern web shop employs a design-oriented aesthetic, creating a visually pleasing experience of online shopping. What choices have you made regarding the design of your site to distinguish your online business, and what has provided the greatest return on investment?
So I'm going to start with a caveat, which is that in spite of having been in marketing and had the benefit of a budget to build out other people's websites, currently we're in the middle of building out our new e-commerce site. So I'm going to share this with you as my journey of the last 6 months, as opposed to putting myself forth as an e-commerce expert. I think e-commerce sites, as I'm coming to learn right now, they're some of the hardest sites to design because of the battle between form and function. I'm going to read some of my notes because I think it's going to be more coherent and valuable for everybody here. So I think there's a battle between form and function, between usability and aesthetic, and it's trying to find that balance. And it's easy to lean too far to one or too far to the other, and we're course correcting probably every week or two right now. So I think if you look at sites like Net-a-Porter or Gilt Group or Jetsetter if you're into travel, or Mr. Porter if you're a guy, very design-oriented sites. There's a lot of investment in the aesthetic appeal of them because they're selling luxury and you're spending a lot of money, and so they want the consumer to feel great about it. And if you take a little bit longer in this discovery process, that's okay, because you are selling fashion and beauty. I think when you come to commodity sites, which a lot of people are selling commodities, we are, it is my opinion only that the design aesthetic often falls away in lieu of simplicity. So clearly Amazon has it right when it comes to conversions. So I'm not saying Amazon doesn't know what they're doing, but I think if you talk to your average shopper who is, let's say, searching for one pair of pantyhose, it might return 400 results. So the shopping experience is not necessarily a fantastic one, either from a curation perspective or, in this case, from an aesthetic perspective. So whether it's a alice.com or a drugstore.com or a amazon.com, I think sometimes simplicity and ease of use can sometimes chip away at the aesthetic. Again, they're doing it well and right, and it works for their business models. What we're trying to do, because we're putting ourselves forward as an auto ship service or auto refill, so simplicity is important, but we're trying to redefine the way women buy their commodities, and we think that buying things like tampons and pantyhose is kind of like going down the no fun aisle. So we really wanted to communicate through our website a certain design aesthetic that was fun, that was fresh, and so we made a decision very early on to invest a lot of time and energy into creating our brand. The brand went beyond the website. The brand is the brand. It's everything. It's our customer service. It's the box that we deliver things in. It's the free gift that comes in the box that we deliver things in. So it's all the touch points. So yes, we really want to create an emotional connection with our shopper because we're selling a commodity that they can buy anywhere. So creating a story and creating a brand experience is important, and that is one of the first places they're going to find that is either on our website or frankly on Facebook, and so we put a lot of energy there as well. It's also for us a really important differentiator, and for those people here who are either trying to differentiate against a competitor, brand aesthetic online can be a touch point that your buyers care about. From our perspective, investors also ask us what makes you different, and our branding and our aesthetic can be one portion of our story as well. So for us, there's very much a two-pronged approach at this stage in our e-commerce journey. I'm a firm believer that a design-oriented aesthetic is important. I think people's expectations of their online experience grow with every passing year as e-commerce grows. Retail sales slump, e-commerce sales go up. People have a bigger expectation for what they're going to get online. We're trying to find a way to meet that. I'm not saying we have yet. But developing a profitable website is very different from a pretty website. And so our site's been live in its existing state more or less for about 3 or 4 months. Let's say we had a beta site before that for about 2 months. We've overhauled it probably 4 times. We are trying to learn from our analytics. So it's a matter of dumping our ego, holding on to our brand story, but dumping our ego and saying, okay, we thought this was going to work. It looked really nice. It met our aesthetic, but it's not converting people. We got them past the first page. We confused them in our shopping cart, so we need to change that. Some of the things you see on our site right now, I can tell you, are in development to be changed because we talked to somebody who's an expert in user experience, and they're like, nope, that's not the right way to do it. So I share my experience, not necessarily, don't do as we've done necessarily, but you might want to consider a few of these learnings. What's been really valuable to us, whether it's paid or whether it's finding an advisor, has been finding someone who's a user experience expert to help decode the do's and don'ts of e-commerce. Somebody who can appreciate your brand and your aesthetic, because we really hold true to that. It's our brand promise. It's more than just an aesthetic for us. But somebody who can also pull us down to earth, us being my co-founder and I, when we skew too far to design and too far away from functionality and frankly conversions, which at the end of the day is what we're trying to do. So few sort of final points for me is that developing a good interface involves having a great team with different mixed skills. Your website is too important to leave into the hands of someone like myself, who is all about marketing and design. But you also can't leave it just in the hands of a coder who will have probably no regard for your design aesthetic. So finding a great project manager who can interpret the two is super important. So I tried to write down 6 things that I thought would be worth taking away. One is to clearly articulate what your brand and brand standards are from the outset. That's separate and distinct from your website, because if you know what your brand standards are from the outset, your designers will hold on to them, you can stay true to them, and you'll fight to the death to keep them on your site. Engage a user experience expert early. There's a lot of talented people out there, and again, if you have resources and budget and money, hire one. If you have none of those things, find one and ask them to be an advisor. They will help them to understand what you want your deliverables to be. Is it 6 months driving traffic and then sales? Is it conversions? Is it increasing incremental revenue? But they're going to help you get there in the design of your website. So articulate your brand, get a user experience expert on. 3, develop some simple wireframes for your designers. We've done this all ourselves. So what does a wireframe mean? Some of you, anybody here know? Well, apart from the panel, don't raise your hands. Okay, so just a few of you. So a wireframe was alarming to me initially. Thank God my partner knows how to do one, but I do now. We took a PowerPoint. We here are all the things that need to happen on this page. We drew them out after we talked to our user experience guy in this case and said, here are the basic buttons. These are what needs to happen. Handed it to a designer and said, now take our brand, layer it over this wireframe, which by the way saved us a lot of money because we did the wireframes, they didn't. And now start to translate this into a working website. Find a designer who has not only creative experience but exposure to e-commerce, because designers will take you way off course sometimes and they will not necessarily know e-commerce best practices. So when you're interviewing a designer, or if you have one, find out if they've got experience with e-commerce. Make sure you have a project manager, if it's not yourself, someone that can stick handle your build out, who understands the importance of the design aesthetic to you and why. It's not just because you want a pretty site. It's, in our case, it's a differentiator. It matters to us in the marketplace very much. You don't want your design aesthetic to get lost when the site's getting coded. Finally, review your analytics. There's a story in there. I know that Jonathan and Gordon, frankly, everyone on this panel could probably talk with more authority than I can, but I can tell you right now, look at your analytics every day. If you miss the story, you're going to miss sales, and we are reacting or being responsive almost weekly to the story that we see in our analytics and change our site accordingly. I'd probably change it every 2 weeks if I could iterate that quickly, but we can't keep on top of ourselves. So those are the 6 things I would share with you from our experience today, and also from my years of working with companies like IntraWest and Opus Hotels and Rick Hansen Foundation. 3 sites I really like right now are Threadless, Outfitters.com, and Uniqlo, UNIQLO, because I think that they convert really well, and I've done a little bit of reading on them, but they've also got great design, so if you want to take a peek at them.
Awesome.
Thanks.
That's great. Well, that's fantastic. Oh, can you repeat?
Oh, sure, yeah. Threadless, Outfitters, and Uniqlo, UNIQLO. Just some FYIs if you want to check them out.
Everybody got those? Wow. Great tips there. Nancy, did you have something to add?
Yeah, we just actually went through a huge redesign, so after 5 years in business, I was like, you know, it's really, it was Halloween, 4:34, and we went, jink, they began us, you know, we pointed to the new website, and I'm like, and then it went live, and I went, and then we're like, oh. And by 5:05, I was breathing again. So, and then I went home and had a drink. No. So, it's quite a process. I ended up hiring a very experienced professional. Spectrum Media helped me to really make that work. Juliet's actually here tonight. Yay. So she had to drag me through the process as we had to rebrand. So, you know, after being in business 5 years, it was a real effort. Well, Nancy, I don't know. I don't know what is the right answer, you know, because it's still going to make money, right? The new design, because you really have to look at all of the navigation issues that happen. So she did a great job, though. It took a while to, you know, get me to come up with the right answers, and then we did the wireframes and all that. So it is quite the process when you have to rehash it. I think that's my point right now too. But you know what? You have to start somewhere, and so just start. You know, sometimes we think about things a little too much, and you know, you need to get going, and like Katrina said, you need to learn from it and just keep watching it and keep tweaking it, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's a bit scary though, because you're tweaking something that somebody's been using for 5 or 10 years, right? And then all of a sudden, the button gets moved, and people start phoning on the phone. Well, where did the button go?
Yeah.
Or how do I get through the process now? Because you've had tens of thousands of users who've been through this process in years, and all of a sudden you made this slight little change, and you think it's better, but everybody says, well, we liked it the way it was. So you have to be really careful about the changes that you do make, and definitely look at the analytics and making sure that things are converting, that people are getting through the system.
I think what's just a great opportunity when you redo a site, or when you redo a site or you create a new site, especially an e-commerce site, the ability to do split testing is easier really than it's ever been. Right. So Google has some tools that will allow you to bring up an element on a page, you know, for a certain audience or for a certain time period, and then the one that, you know, and then report back the statistics on it and the analytics and tie those to what's actually working. So again, the measurement of all of this is easier than it's ever been, and that can really start to drive decisions. And I believe that marketing is the oxygen of your business, and the design is important, but you can have the most beautiful site in the world, but if it's not converting, it really doesn't matter. And there's plenty of sites that aesthetically, you know, you kind of wince at, that are, you know, multi-million-dollar sites, and it's because they've nailed the marketing and the conversion, and they're giving their prospect or their customer what they want, when they want it, quickly.
Excellent. Well, I bet you're going to get some more questions in your session about A/B or split testing, so don't forget to ask them. Elena,
I just want to share, just 2 quick things. So, you know, with my company, obviously we're a consulting business, and I was so embarrassed last year because, like, you're talking about a 5-year-old site. I had a 12-year-old site. I mean, it was so awful that a client actually called me one day to say, you know, I think it's time for you guys to redo your site. So when a client says that, you kind of go, okay. And it only cost a couple of $1,000s, but like, to me, doing a site just seemed like the time, the effort, you know, rebranding. So finally we did it. It only took a month, right? Because it's such a simple site that I have for cross-border PR. And I'll tell you right now that now on a monthly basis, I get more inquiries than I used to get in a year.
Wow.
Like, it was amazing that I realized, you know, just the logo, the website just wasn't communicating our brand anymore, and it was actually affecting us. And you never know until you launch your new website. And I haven't done any marketing, nothing at all. But for some reason, we're getting way more inquiries on a monthly basis. Like I said, honestly, considered, you know, versus a year. And the second thing is, right now we're building a site. So I'm an entrepreneur, so I have ADD. I feel like I have to start things all the time. And so we're I'm building a site for a shoe company that I'm now involved in, and I had a fight with a designer because, you know, even though I love Twitter, he wanted to put the Twitter and the Facebook buttons everywhere, right, on every single page, and I'm like, no, I don't want them to leave the shop, right? And I think it's critical if you're selling a product, for example, you don't want them to leave. Don't make it easy for them to leave. So it's such a simple thing, but we think, okay, we have to build our social media community, so we have to give them all these touch points and access points to get to my Twitter or my Facebook. But if you think about it as a funnel, right, like this, and at the top is really your social media presence, you know, your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. You're like outposts, and you're trying to get them home to your blog or to your website. And really when they get home, you know, the bottom of the funnel is like the email where you want to capture them, right? And so you work so hard to get them on your site, don't let them leave. Like, plug off that leak. So look at your site if you're selling a product and see where the leaks are, where people are leaving. And I think social media is probably one of the first things where they leave. They want to check out your Facebook page.
Right.
So don't do that.
Excellent point.
Make it hard to leave.
Yeah. How many people do that on their site? I think we do, actually. Okay, so we're going to get to the next question because I know we're going to be short on time. Jonathan, we're going to talk about online reputation management. What are some strategies that can help you improve your online reputation?
Okay, there's a quote that I really like by Jeff Bezos, who is the founder and CEO of Amazon.com, and Jeff is pretty famous for saying that if you make customers unhappy in the physical world, they might each tell 6 of their friends. If you make customers unhappy on the internet, they might each tell 6,000 of their friends. So whether you like it or not, people are going to be talking about your brand online, and the more successful your business becomes, the more and more this is bound to happen. So today's web is a very social web, and your brand is definitely not an island. And so there's more need than ever, basically, to be proactive in the way that we approach reputation management online. So in the e-commerce world, we know that when someone is about to make a purchase decision on your site, it's not uncommon for them to actually leave your site temporarily and then research your site, research your business. And they do this because if they've never heard of you before, and even in some cases where they have heard of you before, they want to know, 1, that your business is going to do what it says it's going to do, and 2, they want to be confident and develop enough trust in that your business is a safe place for them to put their money online. So basically, as they're doing research, if they encounter, a myriad of really negative reviews, this can actually dissuade them from completing a transaction on your website. They might actually leave. But similarly, if they encounter a multitude of really positive reviews, that can give them the confidence and the trust that I mentioned that they need to complete a transaction on your site. So to me, in my opinion, reputation management is largely about reaching out to the people who have had really positive experiences with your company and engaging them somehow to have them share these experiences in places that people are going to look at your company online. So one tactic that I've seen a number of different companies use that's quite successful is, again, going back to email marketing, which we all seem to love here. It's called an email marketing reach back campaign. I think that if you actually Google that term, you can find some pretty cool information on it. It's very simple. You basically segment your database, or if you just have a list of people that have given you their email address because they've all made transactions on your website, you can just kind of go through that as well. But you filter your database to figure out who was actually a happy customer. So if this is on a very large scale, what that means is that you're excluding people who returned an item. You're excluding people who asked for a refund. Hopefully these are very small segments, right? But you're trying to leave those people out of the equation, and then generally what you're left with after the exclusion process is a list of people who probably were happy. The problem is that, I guess, what you're doing, in segmenting like this is that an unhappy customer really needs no motivation to kind of talk about you online and say negative things. Whereas what I've seen from some of my experiences is that often a happy customer is actually also a silent customer. So they make a purchase online. They get exactly what they thought they were going to get. They're happy, and that's it. They don't need to go and complain anywhere and make a big fuss. So emailing those people and then providing them with some sort of incentive to actually go and talk about you online in a positive way is a very powerful thing. The email might be something along the lines of, hey, thank you for shopping with us. We'd love to hear about your experience online. If you'd be willing to, share your take on how it was doing business with us on this forum or this review site or even in our own social media. You can give them, a rebate on the item that they just purchased, or maybe a 10% off the next item they purchase, or a freebie, because that seems to be kind of one of the themes of what we're talking about too. So in terms of reputation management, that's a tactic that I've seen work quite well. Basically, and if you're on a shoestring budget, email marketing can be relatively cheap to execute as well. So that's how I would proactively get lots of positivity and positive reviews out there before anything else happens, basically.
Some great tips. Gordon, you have something to
I
add?
think that, I just think that all the overarching message of social media and internet marketing today is one-to-one. It's taking a relationship that was once blasted out, and now it's all inbound marketing, and it's how can we create a one-to-one relationship with that visitor to the website. And there's so many ways to do that now. One, we were talking about Twitter earlier as being, how do we use Twitter, and everyone's on Twitter, and how do you use it, and different businesses. And I was telling a friend last night about, we were talking about Twitter, and businesses that you would think wouldn't necessarily use Twitter, for example, the dry cleaner, okay? If you're a dry cleaner, have a Twitter account, and your customers that come in, have someone look them up on Twitter, see if they're on Twitter, see what they're talking about, and then when they come in to pick up their dry cleaning, if it's their birthday or they're looking to go to a show or do something, if you surprise them with something, it's you have a raving fan, and it's all of this to me is about total lifetime value of the client, because it's so easy to switch and to choose and to make all of these different choices. If you can capture and engage in a different way, and social media allows you to do that, one-to-one, Twitter specifically, being able to follow someone's feed and see, again, what they like. So even the dry cleaner could have a Twitter account and have raving fans because they surprised them.
Right.
So,
Personal touch.
Yep.
Katrina?
How many people here use Hootsuite or TweetDeck? The Hootsuite. We have our Hootsuite set up into a lot of different streams. Does everybody here use streams in Hootsuite? Yeah. And we received a hit recently in Mashables, so obviously we were getting quite a few retweets. And every time somebody retweeted with an actual comment, as opposed to just because they had nothing to say, so they hit retweet, but they were like, oh, this is a cool site, or check this out, or wish I'd known about this, we would respond to them directly and say, basically, thank you for your shout out. If you DM us, which means now they have to follow us, we'll give you a gift for $10.
Great.
And so I think we brought about 50 new people on because we made sure to reach out to, and it was long and late into the night because we did this the minute it happened. We followed this Twitter stream, but it was just a real-time, free way for us to go in. And not everybody used them, but it just meant that they knew that we were paying attention, watching them, thanking them, and giving them something, and we captured their follow through that. So that was just an easy, free way for us to engage with some people.
That's great. And you wowed them because they weren't expecting that, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Wow. Great tip. Okay, so want to move on to our next question, Gordon? What does SEO mean today? What are the key elements to look for to truly understand if your website is working or creating value for your business, and what should you watch for?
All right. Well, there's a lot of things to think about there. I'm just going to look at my notes just because I have a couple thoughts that I certainly don't want to miss out on. First, it's realizing that the value of the site to the business, that's one way to look at it, but it's the value to the visitor and the prospect is really, I believe, where it's at. So to create the value and be thinking of what are they going to get from the site, what's the value, because you really only have 4 to 8 seconds to show that in a way that that will either keep them going or, unfortunately, click away. So, I think that there's really a few key elements that I like to focus on when thinking through, are we giving value to the visitor and the prospect or the customer? And it really starts with what is the business objective of the site? Why do we have this site? And thinking through, is it to generate more leads? Is it to sell a physical or digital product? Is it to get more registrations? So thinking through and understanding the business objectives first will determine if the design and the marketing will meet those objectives. So that's kind of the first element that I think through. And there's really kind of three that I'm going to mention here. The second one is, what's the most desired action? What do you want the prospect to do when they land on the site? And is there a call to action for them to do it? So many times you go to a website and there's so many choices, people get lost and they don't understand what to do. And that shows leadership when you have a directive saying, do this, start here, giving some clear indication of what you want them to do. So that most desired action is really important, and that's really led by the call to action. And then third, remembering that people do business with who they know, trust, and like, and how are you showing that, not just telling them that here we're great, but how are you showing them that that they should know, like, and trust you. And you can do that with video testimonials and things that in the past might have been more difficult are easier to do today. And it's so important just to make sure that that you're showing it, not just telling it. And so those 3 points, I think understanding what the objectives are of your website first and foremost, making sure that there's a most desired action, and that's driven by the call to action on the site. And then third, making sure that you're showing that people can know, like, and trust you through the website.
Great. Is there anybody from the panel? Nancy, has something to add?
Well, video is becoming a really big tool, because now the Google spiders will go in and capture all the words. But I've also been told that it's part of Google ranking now, and please, I'm a generalist, you're both specialists. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna say it right. So video is just a really neat tool now to really portray yourself in the right light.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing them about 2 years ago. I went through all the Reached courses and, really understood it, and then, I got busy. But you're never too busy. Never too busy. But now I have actually some of the people on my team do the videos, because I still understand that we have to be credible. Okay, if you're going to buy product from my site, you have to trust that, A, I'm going to deliver the product to you, B, that you recommended this, is it results oriented or not, and C, I don't know, are you satisfied with the experience as well? So video, I can't emphasize it enough. It's a really, really great tool. It's also part of linking back to your site. And if you do a video, make sure you tweet about it, you go on Facebook, you put it in your e-newsletter, you put it on your webpage, and you link it everywhere. And that's what people don't quite understand as well. And it's SEO, right? All the keywords that you add into the video, into the YouTube caption, the descriptor.
Yep.
So you basically create another little website by creating your YouTube group.
So Nancy, you do your own corporate video about your products and services, but do you also do videos of your clients who are giving testimonials of their experience?
I have actually done videos of my employees.
Oh, okay.
And that was really neat. That's actually with my other business, Le Petit Spa. But so basically Giselle gets on and she's like, yeah, I'm from Brazil, and yeah, I do waxing, and I'll let you finish it. But okay. So anyways, people phone and they're like, yeah, I want to book with Giselle. I'm like, okay, I'm going to Brazil. And then the other, I remember we had another gal too. A guy booked with her for some waxing, and when a guy comes in, he's like, oh, and they get in the room, and he says, so you're from Sudbury too? And she's like, how do you know that? It was in your video. And I'm like, she came out and told me this, and I just thought, wow, isn't that neat? Because there was a personal connection made.
Yeah.
Then he picked up the phone and he said, I'm gonna book with this person at Le Petit, because I have a connection with her. So when she rips the hair off my back.
I think that emphasizes the point of the one-to-one.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's the one-to-one. It's all about creating an authentic relationship with your prospect.
Right, and the trust was built before
Exactly.
he even walked in the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. Elena?
So I just want to add to that, you know, like we talk about the one-to-one, and everybody here is probably, you know, marketing business to business, right? Like we all know B2B.
Yeah.
And I think the shift that's happening is really you're marketing B2P. It's business to a person.
Mhm.
You know, and so trying to, even though you're marketing to possibly thousands of people, you know, having that voice, having that tone, having the video, and really trying to show who you are, your personality, the brand of your company, that really comes across, you know, in trying to market to a person. Like, never forget that no matter what, no matter how big the company is, the decision maker is a person. So what are they looking for? What are they afraid of? You know, what's keeping them up at night? Like, these are the questions I ask my client is, what is your customer, you know, when they go to bed, what is keeping them up at night? What are they most afraid of that you can solve? And no matter what we're doing, whether it's a technology client that I'm representing, you know, when we write, we're trying to write, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's really been a shift in marketing communications where it's a lot more casual, right? Because that's how we talk, that's how we relate to a person. Now I'm reading, like, you know, sometimes my team writes a press release or a pitch and I'm like, you know, like, we're talking to a person, we're not talking to a business here. So I think just kind of having that shift of instead of B2B, you're talking to B2P.
Good thing to remember, definitely. Okay, so Nancy, you've got the last question here. Nancy, you have built a successful business that is both offline and online with a spa boutique. What are the similarities, differences, and challenges in the marketing strategies for driving traffic to a bricks and mortar store versus an e-commerce website?
Right. So the neat thing about Spa Boutique is I did start online first. It was sort of, you know, I started selling product online. Didn't really pay attention. It was in my home, you know, I was just like, yeah, whatever. And then I created a partnership with someone and then got a little more serious, but it was always her because she was the expert and she was doing all the work. So, you know, basically I hired somebody in the beginning with the whole online. In my industry, for me to have access to the brands that I sell, I need to do I need to do facials in bricks and mortar. So I opened my Spa Boutique store a year ago. And I also created boundaries between my other business because this is a separate brand, and it was really important for me to convey to everyone that it was different. So now I really have to wear two hats, you know, the online marketing versus the offline marketing, and I have to remember that. So I actually do create two marketing plans, making sure that we're doing different marketing activity. So in the online world, it's of course all about pay-per-click, paid search. We haven't really talked about that too much. But Google AdWords, so I pay a consultant to create all the campaigns for me. And we budget a lot of money to drive traffic to our website, and we analyze it to death as well. I have to sit down once a month with her and go through this 20-page report and try and understand it. Okay, yeah, so what should we do? Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so, I mean, that's one of my really big offline tools. I consider myself a generalist. I hire specialists who understand pay-per-click. It's very, very, very complicated. Get started, absolutely. Google does they have tutorials and all that. You can try and figure it out, but as you spend more and more money, you know, might want to hire a consultant. So the online, very much the email, as we mentioned earlier, e-newsletters, how are we communicating with our customers, social media, everything from the blogs are really important because we want to be portrayed as professionals. You know, I have estheticians writing my blogs. You know, this isn't just a blog. We put some thought into it. But we are also putting our SEO hat on at the same time. So the blog is trying to reach a certain objective. And now what I'm trying to say to my team is we need a video and a blog. And then, you know, attach it all to the website and create that world where we're trying to inform our customers. about a certain thing. So a new product launch, you know, why are you doing this? You know, why would my customer be interested? In the offline world, I find there are some similarities, i.e. we do email as well, but we're selling product in a retail store, so the store has to be merchandised properly. It has to be clean. It has to be full of product. People want to come in and have a great retail experience. My staff have to be trained. My staff have to look good. My staff have to smile, you know. So there's different elements to my marketing, because to me, marketing is the customer's experience, whether it's online or offline. We do events in the store. Actually, Sue Sinclair from Raspberry Kids, she's phenomenal. And she was showing me how she currently does e-parties online. And I'm like, what? What's she doing? And she happens, her kids are with my niece and nephew at Edith Cavell, and I run into her at soccer, you know, and the world is so small here in Vancouver. So anyways, you know, it's just like, wow, I didn't know you could do a party online. Like, who knew? So I just found that out 2 weeks ago. So it looks very different, but sometimes there are similarities. But I recommend that you have a different plan and make sure you give it thought, you know, and you tackle it differently. Or sometimes I say, you know, I sit down with my marketing person, okay, let's talk about this one first and then talk about the other one, so that you do look at it differently.